Hi there everyone, welcome to Creative Coloring with Erum. Today I'm creating a warm autumn woodland scene using Altenew's new watercolor tubes, Burnt Sienna, Mars Red and Dyck Brown. I'll show you how to bring an embossed panel to life with just 3 colors. Let's get started. I'll be using the hot pressed 5x7 watercolor cardstock, Woodland Path 3D Embossing Folder, and the 3 new watercolor tubes, Dyck Brown, Mars Red and Burnt Sienna. First, I'll cut my watercolor cardstock in half widthwise, so I have a 3.5 by 5 inch panel. Next, I'll place this inside the Woodland Path embossing folder and emboss the panel. I'll begin by applying a light layer of clean water across the panel from top to bottom. This helps the pigment spread naturally. Then I'll paint a soft wash of burnt sienna at the top and bring it downward. At the bottom edge, I'll add Dyck Brown and blend it upward into the burnt sienna. Most of the panel will be covered with burnt sienna. I always start light for underpainting and then build up layers as I see fit. Before applying the next layer, I will dry this panel to see how light my watercolor appears. Then I'll use fine mister to spray over the panel. I will also bring in slightly more concentrated burnt sienna pigment and add it randomly to create texture. Since this is wet on wet, it will diffuse significantly. I'll repeat this with Dyck Brown, then create a mix of both pigments to achieve a smooth transition. Once I'm happy with the look, I will dry the panel. Next, I will color the embossed or erased areas. At this point, if you think you have lost definition and can't see the embossed areas clearly, you can emboss the panel again. But as you can see, the texture on my panel remains quite visible. I will start by applying water to the area I'm coloring and dropping in the pigment. I'll use one paintbrush for the pigment and another with clean water to help me pull out the pigment or blend. I will keep the base of the leaves darker. I'm imagining the light source is coming from above, so my shadows will be on the bottom or the underside of the elements. I will keep the upward curved areas light so they show highlights. To differentiate between tones, I will switch between burnt sienna, Dyck Brown, and a mix of both. To some of the leaves, I will also add a hint of Mars Red. You can come back later to add more details to the leaves, such as more depth while you color other leaves or elements. You will be able to add sharper details once the image dries. I will color all leaves the same way. For the acorn tops, apply water to the area, then drop in Dyck pigment onto the base or where you want to add shadow, and let the water move the pigment naturally first. While the acorn tops dry, I will color the mushrooms using Mars Red. Again, apply water to the mushroom head, then apply the pigment to the edges first, more concentrated pigment on the base and the sides, especially on the left-hand side. To add more depth, mix Dyck Brown with the Mars Red and apply it as stippling to some areas. Keep working on this till you are happy. I leave that highlight on the right as is. For the mushroom stem, I will start with a light wash of burnt sienna as a base color, then add shadows of Dyck Brown. I will also balance this with a mix of both Dyck Brown and burnt sienna. Doing so will make the stem slightly different than the leaves. For the acorn's lower portion, I used burnt sienna. I also added shading using the same watercolor. To add more texture to the background, I used a mix of regular watercoloring and dry brushing to add shadow to the ground. You can also add softer shadows. I'm using all the brushes that I have in my hand. They all have different pigments. I have 3x0, 1 and 2. The 3x0 is mainly used for detail. I will now use the number 6 paintbrush and add dabs of diluted Mars red pigment to the background to add more texture. And to add finer texture, I'll switch to a smaller brush like 1 or 2. Next, I will add very fine diluted splatters of Dyck Brown, then burnt sienna, and then Mars red. I'll add more Mars red as that is one pigment I used the least. Once the panel is dry, I will add very fine black splatters. To create these, use the edge of the container or an acrylic block to flick the paint. I'm using carbon black gouache here. The last detail I will add is to use white gel pen and put lots of white dots to make it look whimsical. If you don't like the look, just add a few white splatters or skip it altogether. I think I overdid it, then went back in to add a light wash of color to soften them. The embossing folder comes with a coordinating simple coloring stencil set. So if watercolor isn't your thing, you can use those too. I haven't colored the embossed panel in such a long time, so this was fun. And I was eager to try the new watercolor tubes as well. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Hello there! Did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altenew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye!